Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm excited to have you here for our first session of our 2026 Pre-Retiree Academy. This is our sixth year delivering this program, and while I might be the presenter, please know that this would not be possible to deliver if not for the commitment of many talented team members that all serve our firm and corporate retirement plan division. Being a resource to you, the participants of the plans that we serve, is something we take tremendous pride in and really is the genesis of the creation of the Pre-Retiree Academy. Over the next 8 weeks, we're going to help you build a roadmap for retirement. We'll cover everything from budgeting and Social Security to withdrawal strategies, taxes, Medicare, investment risk, and even estate planning. Whether retirement is a year away or 15 years away, the goal is the same: to raise your awareness and to better prepare you for your retirement journey. So let's get started. Before we dive into today's content, I'd like to briefly introduce you to MCF Advisors. We are your retirement plans consultant. We are an independent SEC registered investment advisor firm. And at the end of 25, we're managing a little over $4.5 billion in assets and have offices throughout Kentucky and Ohio. We are the retirement plan consultant for your company's retirement plan. We assist your company leadership and retirement plan committee in all things that it takes to run a plan. Things like making sure the funds in your plan are amongst the best performing and lowest cost available. Keeping the plan design modern and aligned with your company's goals in today's ever-changing world of retirement plans. That's a challenge. And in addition to this, our role is to provide education, planning, and advice for you, the participants, as individuals to make informed financial decisions in order to facilitate a positive outcome for your retirement. I am Hunter Nybert, and I'm a financial advisor and retirement planning specialist with MCF Advisors. I've been with MCF for the past 12 years and I have more than 28 years of experience in the financial services industry. During that time, I've had the opportunity to help individuals and families through every stage of their financial lives. But my primary focus today is helping people plan the transition from working and saving to living confidently in retirement. Throughout this course, I encourage you to ask questions. If something isn't clear, chances are someone else is wondering the same thing. My goal is to make these topics understandable and practical and not overwhelm you with financial jargon. You'll see my contact information on the screen and also throughout the course. If you have a question or anything comes up after today's session or any session, please don't hesitate to reach out via email, or you can even use the QR code to schedule a one-on-one. So as a housekeeping note, everything that we'll cover throughout this program will be available through our Pre-Retiree Academy website. It's on the screen. It's mcfadvisors.com/pre-retiree-academy. You'll find recordings of webinars, worksheets, presentations, and additional resources that you can revisit at any time. If you can't make a live session, don't stress about it. You'll have full access to the content on this website, as well as it will be emailed to you, but it will be on this website specifically well into next year. This also keeps you from feeling like you have to remember every detail through every session. Think of today's session as introducing the concepts and then the materials afterwards that are placed on the website more as a reference. Retirement planning isn't something you learn in a single afternoon. It's a process. And these resources are designed to support you throughout that process in order for you to build a foundation, a stronger foundation, if you will, for your own retirement. So I get this question from committee members when we talk about this program. And the question is, why have we developed this? Well, A couple of reasons, mostly, as I mentioned before, you, the participants, but really, I think retirement has changed so much over the last several years, specifically the last 20 or 30 radically. Why does retirement seem so much more complicated today than it did for our parents and our grandparents? Well, the answer is the shift in the mechanism of retirements has changed drastically in a short period of time. Previous generations often relied on three primary sources of retirement security: a pension, which some of you still have access to, Social Security as a large part of that, as well as our grandparents especially had employer paid health care benefits. Those benefits created a fairly predictable retirement. The mechanism and the vehicles of those predominant vehicles, especially corporate retirement, has changed quite a bit. Today, most of us are responsible for building our own retirement through a 401k or a 403b plan, as well as other personal savings vehicles. Instead of someone promising us a monthly check, as a pension check, we're responsible for deciding how much to save, how to invest it, and eventually how to turn those savings into a stream of lifetime income. At the same time, we're living longer than those previous generations, and that's wonderful, but it also means our retirement savings may need to last 25 or even 30 years or more when we kind of get to retirement ages. So that's why retirement planning has shifted from simply accumulating wealth to learning how to manage it through retirement. One thing I've noticed after years of working with retirement plan participants is that many people don't know what comes next. And this is really the crux of why we started this program. Questions like, how do I access my retirement money when I get there? When should I claim Social Security? How much risk should I be taking once I retire or when I get close to retirement? Should I leave my money in my current employer plan, or should I roll it to an individual retirement account? These are exactly the questions that we'll cover over the next 8 weeks and more. And my hope is by the end of this course, you're going to leave with a greater confidence and a clearer understanding of your options and a practical action plan for yourself to achieve your own goals. So I have often drawn parallels between taking a trip and retirement. When you take a trip or a vacation, it requires planning. How are you going to get to the destination? What routes might you take to get there? How long is this trip? Where will you stay? Will the weather be impacting you along the way or after you're there? What food will you bring with you or get when you're there? The list goes on and on. What's interesting is that we plan all of these type of things in our life very routinely. Think about the last vacation you took. Did you just wake up and plan to go as you went? Not generally. I would say the vast majority of us, when we have a vacation, we plan for that up front. Outside of a spontaneous weekend trip or something. How about the last house that you bought? Were you driving down the street and without a thought, did you randomly see a house and say, I think I'll buy that one right now? Of course not. Most people plan their trips or major purchases up front. But the interesting thing is that about planning is that it answers questions. It often leads to other questions, but they're useful to answer nonetheless. Gathering this information allows us to be informed about the state of things as they are today and perhaps what they'll look like as we're making our way. But for some reason, when it comes to retirement, we often don't approach it the same way as when we're having those big purchases or planning that trip. Or at least we don't until we get really close to it, to the age in which we can envision it. So that's why I equate this as a journey. And your retirement journey is not to get to retirement. Your journey is to get through it. And what that means is life expectancy. So let's dig in. What planning have you done? Maybe you've accumulated a healthy 401k or 403b. Maybe some of you have already looked into or gotten notices that estimate your Social Security benefits. Maybe you've paid off your mortgages or you have a plan into place to have it paid off by the time you get to retirement. Or maybe retirement still feels like something you'll worry about later or feel like you're tremendously behind on. Wherever you're at today, it's okay. Being present here is the most important step. Engaging yourself in this process, no longer putting our heads in the sand, throwing our hands up, using hope as the strategy. Taking that first step is really the hardest, and I commend everybody for being here. Retirement planning isn't one big decision. It's a series of smaller decisions that build on one another. And our goal over the next several weeks is to help you make those decisions with more confidence than you have today. So really quickly, let's go over the topics that we're going to specifically cover for a moment. These topics will be covered by a combination of delivery methods, live webinars, recorded webinars, PDFs, PowerPoint presentations, and worksheets and articles over the next 8 weeks. I've already had some great questions of things to cover, which is great to see in early engagement. And I will do my best to work some of that in to the content, or at least prepare to cover them in Q&A sessions on the live webinars. I encourage everyone to ask questions on those webinars or contact me if you feel stuck or confused, as I mentioned before. So what are we going to be talking about today? Charting your course to retirement or gathering data. We're also going to look at taking stock of your assets and liabilities and building a financial statement or a net worth statement. We're going to set a retirement budget that comes with things today. Understanding Social Security benefits, a tremendously complex program of which I have to refer to a nice size manual on complex situations. Retirement withdrawals and how to access your money, giving you different strategies or ways that you can withdraw it safely to make sure that your retirement savings last. Tax planning basics, very high level things to be aware of if you're trying to be more tax efficient as you get to or in retirement. Evaluating your risk, adding to your savings or keep adding to your savings in order to meet those goals. Creating or reviewing your estate plan. We'll have a one-on-one interview with a licensed estate practicing attorney. Also, life insurance needs. Do you still need it? Do you need more? What does that situation look like for you? Medicare basics, the importance of what the program is, what it does, what supplements you need, and most importantly, when you need to sign up. And then the last, we will kind of bring it all together into maintaining a plan moving forward and perhaps things that you need to look for if you're interested in working with a financial advisor. So throughout the next 8 weeks, you'll hear me cover topics that I just mentioned, but we'll also relate them back to 5 key risks that every retiree, nearly every retiree faces. These aren't listed in an order of importance because every person's situation is different, but the first is longevity risk. As I mentioned, we are living longer and longer than our parents, and the possibility of living longer than expected and needing your money to last longer is an important risk to consider and, more importantly, plan for. The second is healthcare costs, which have become one of the largest expenses during retirement. If you retire early, it's important to make sure that you account for paying for your own insurance should you need to. So having a realistic expectation of how much that costs, what it looks like. Third's inflation, even modest inflation will gradually reduce your purchasing power over time. That is like the silent one that's really hard to grasp, although everybody feels like inflation because of our economic situation over the last few years, inflation has ramped up. But normally it's not so intense in a short period of time. Normally it is more quiet and subdued year over year. And so we'll address that in many different ways. Fourth is investment risk. Taking too much risk is a big problem when we get to the distribution phase of life. And so it's not about how much risk you can take, it's more about how much risk you shouldn't take. And we'll touch on that throughout our 8 weeks as well. And then finally, and this seems like the simplest one, but one that you need to prepare for, and that is withdrawal risk. Taking money from your retirement accounts faster than they can reasonably support is probably the first reason that people run out of money early. So when we're doing these webinars, recorded or otherwise, we'll revisit these risks within the context of the topic we're discussing. Not every single time, but we'll touch on the ones that are applicable to the topics at hand. Because retirement planning isn't about eliminating risk; it's about mitigating it and navigating it. So you can, and understanding it moving forward, maybe as a better conceptualization to what you're doing today. We've talked about the journey, the roadmap, and the risk. Now let's define what success actually looks like. I often get asked, am I ready to retire? Do you think I can be successful? And my answer is almost always another question. Well, that depends on you. Depends on how much you're planning to spend. What does retirement look like for you? And that all comes together. You've heard a term probably from record keepers and other educations. It really boils down to what's known as retirement readiness. Retirement readiness isn't like a magic age or a specific account balance, even though it would be nice if it was. It's your ability to maintain the lifestyle that you want to after your paycheck stops and you start having to pull from savings or other income sources. So this depends on a lot of different factors. Obviously, Social Security is a piece, pension income, if you're fortunate to have that, other retirement savings like your 401k, your healthcare costs, taxes, and even your emotional readiness all play important roles on if you are retirement ready. One thing I'll add is that people often overlook the emotional side of retiring. For many people, it provides structure, purpose, friendships, and routine. And financially prepared doesn't always mean emotionally prepared, sorry. And I can't stress that enough. That comes up more than one would think. So we're not going to touch on that a lot, but I like to mention it because it frequently gets overlooked, and it's something to consider when we're really making the decisions of moving into retirement. Now, some people, it's a breeze, but other people struggle more than they think of filling those gaps that we mentioned of purpose and structure and really relationships. Filling that void often becomes more difficult than predicted. Just be aware. Probably my most popular question that I get from participants is, how much money do I need to retire? How much does it take? I get asked, should you have $500,000, $1 million, 2 million, whatever? I mean, the real question is, everyone is different. And the real answer is the amount that you need to have saved is directly proportional to the amount that you plan to spend. And that sounds like a cop-out, but it's true. And if you don't know the answer to that question, how much you plan to spend, I'm going to highly encourage you to figure that out during this program, especially today. But there are general solid approaches that you can fall back on if you don't know that. And the most common approach is replacement income ratio. Most financial advisors recommend saving enough to replace 70 to say 90% of your pre-retirement income, your pre-retirement annual income in order to kind of maintain the standard of living of which you become accustomed to. At MCF, we tend to recommend 80% or higher as income replacement targets. That 80% comes from all of those income sources available to you. And while this is a simple rule to compute and really to understand, the real answer, going back to the original question of how much you should have saved, it really depends on your retirement spending needs, wants, and those kind of things. And I know a lot of people who have heard me speak before have heard this, but it most often comes down to these three questions. How much money do I need to live the way I would like to live or my current lifestyle? When do I need to start drawing money from my savings or other income producing assets? And then question three, for how long am I going to be drawing that money for? And I can tell you this, if we knew the answer to that last question, this would be incredibly simple, folks. But we don't. So that's the challenge. That's the trick. That's the one we're solving for, if you will. So don't get caught up in a number. Let's try to start personalizing this on your own journey and move forward. Most retirees don't rely on just one income source. So it's important to kind of know where your money will come from in retirement. Instead of retirement income just being one piece, it's usually made up like a puzzle, several pieces that you put together. Social Security is part of it and often a foundation, but I hope for you it's not the main piece. It's a really good program, but it was always designed to be a safety net, a supplement to various retirement programs and plans out there. But it should be a part of planning for you, as it's often a strong component to the equation. And then we'll look at other things that you'll be able to withdraw from savings, things like your 401ks, 403bs, IRAs. Some of you on the call might have a pension. Others might have access to maybe pensions from other careers that they've had. Maybe you've been in the military. Some of you might serve in the National Guard and have access to the National Guard pension. Everybody's different on that. Others have investment income from investments. Maybe some of you have rental property. Part-time work is also a consideration that can be give you additional income in and through retirement. Just because you're stepping away from your main job doesn't mean you can't get a part-time job to help supplement those income needs for a period of time. It really goes back to pulling different levers of when you're going to pull savings and how much in some cases. It's really about coordinating all of these income sources and helping ensure that they're going to last you through retirement and through your life expectancy. All of the sources on the pages here really need to be accounted for in your personal planning. So where will your retirement income come from? This slide illustrates kind of how that retirement has evolved, as we talked about before. The previous generations, relied more heavily on pensions. Today, most retirees are responsible for generating the majority of their own retirement income. That's both a challenge and an opportunity at the same time. According to a Social Security study, as much as 62% on average of your retirement income comes from your own sources. So that's why financial planning in particular has become much more important than it was 30 and 40 years ago. Retirement today isn't simply reaching age 65. It's managing your resources wisely for what could be another 30 plus years. The nice thing about having those sources as a side note is that when you focus on your own savings, while that is a challenge, it is also a nice thing because it gives you control and flexibility over really a lot of things: how you save, how you invest it, and eventually when you're going to draw that money. Um, Do you think you'll have enough to retire? You can start to get a good sense by asking yourself some of these questions. Am I in a position to stop working? What do my retirement expenses, or what will they look like? What are my expenses like today if you don't know that? What will my health care costs be? That's one that a lot of us don't know until we get there, but there's some projections. Do I need to have a side job or a side hustle? Will I be able to maintain the lifestyle that I've accustomed to? All of these, if you're able to ask and answer, and especially the last question, will my money last? If you're able to answer these, you're really going to have the answer to your question fairly quickly. So, as I said before, the amount that you need saved is proportional to how much you plan to spend. And if you don't know that, we have to find that out. And maybe we have to do a little bit of further planning. It all starts with a budget. A budget is a sampling and accounting for all of your inflows and outflows of expenses, creating a plan for those expenses and following up on that periodically to see if things went according to plan is really important. And I know not many people like this process. It makes us feel restricted. And I think it's a fallacy that it does. Psychologically, this is an incorrect view that our brain emotionally tricks us into thinking. It makes us feel restricted. And in reality, it should make us feel empowered. Because when you have a firm handle on your inflows and outflows and you have a budget for the deployment of those expenses, savings, or whatever goals, it should make you feel empowered because you have full control over the deployment of every dollar that you spend. It's about making sure that you're spending on things that matter the most. It brings that into focus. And I realize not necessarily the most fun part. We all want the same things. We want to spend what we want to spend when we want to spend it. But if we have goals and we're trying to reach a goal, and in this case, retirement, it's incredibly important to have that. If you remember one thing from today's presentation, remember this. Every retirement plan starts with a budget. People often ask me what investment they should own or how much they need to save. Before we can answer any of those questions, you first need to understand how much it's going to cost you to live, or predict it at least. Retirement planning isn't about replacing your salary. It's about replacing your spending, and that's a big difference. Most of us know roughly what we make each month, but surprisingly, few people know exactly what we make and where it goes. Your retirement budget won't be identical to your current budget. That's okay. Some expenses may disappear and some may be replaced when you get to retirement. Some may go up and others' expenses may go down in retirement. It's part of it. But today's budget of what you're spending today gives us a starting point. And you can't know where you're going until you know where you are today. So this is a process that I encourage clients to follow if you don't have an understanding of what your inflows and outflows are. So first we have to gather the information. Good decisions begin with good information. So take a couple of months, 2 or 3, if you can't remember everything that you have going out, research it, look it, but over a 3-month period, most expenses will come into play one way or the other. Gather all the information you can. Your income, how much you're making should be easy. Go to your pay stubs, check those, see what you're doing. Your expenses, how much you're paying out. This is one that requires a little bit more legwork. You know, monitor your banking accounts, check everything that you have on auto pay. Netflix raised prices. You might be acutely unaware of it. You might have four different streaming services, but you need to account for every expense that you have out there. I want you to also start gathering your assets, your 401ks, IRAs, savings, anything that you have outside of that, and investments or cash, whatever. I want you to start accounting for that. And then, of course, your debts. We'll talk about why those are important in later. But as far as your income and expenses, it's important that you have that understanding so you can calculate what your monthly cash flow is. It's really important to do the legwork of this. As I said before, a lot of things get put on auto payment and become unconscious to us. But it's important to have a clear understanding of your whole picture: utilities, insurance, phones, school, all of it. From there, what we have to understand is the first part of that is not creating a budget. A budget is a plan. Remember, a budget's a plan. Gathering that data is just mobilizing the next step, which is from there creating a realistic budget or spending plan. Account for each dollar that you spend and intentionally try to create excess cash flows in order to help you meet whatever your goal is, whether that be to pay down debt, whether that be to increase your savings, midterm, long term, it doesn't matter. Budgeting is it's not a one-time exercise. So when we do this, we have to monitor it or check it every now and again and really compare how we did, what happened compared to what the plan was. If something is consistently off on that in any particular subject, then we probably need to make future adjustments to the budget. It's okay to miss. We're not going to get it all right, but you need to go back and look at it and see what we could have done better and what we did well, more importantly, and to continue that consistency. So from there, fortunately, we're going to send you a worksheet, a budgeting worksheet, as well as a net worth statement. But there are countless apps and tools out there, including AI, that can help you track your finances, and it's much easier than it used to be. The important thing isn't which app or software you use. The important thing is just developing the habit of the process. The best budget you'll ever come up with is the one you'll actually stick with. Every dollar that you have has a job, but the question is, are you deciding where those things go, where those dollars go, or is it deciding for you? I like to think about spending in three buckets. Needs. These are fairly obvious. The essentials: housing, food, utilities, healthcare, transportation, rent, all of the things that are essentials living month to month, day to day. Next, on the triangle or pyramid, if you will, and you could flip it. You could do savings next if you want to, but wants is a good portion of that. Vacations, yes, budget for your vacation. So it's important to remember that every dollar has a job. So the question is, are you deciding where those dollars go, or are they deciding for you? I like to think of spending in three buckets. And it's almost like shape of a triangle or a pyramid, if you will. The first one is needs, and those are fairly self-explanatory. Those are essentials: housing, food, utilities, healthcare, transportation, rent, any of those things that are grossly required just to live month to month, day to day. We have to start there. The next often comes once. I tell people all the time, you don't have to be, you don't have to live on beans and rice. You can budget eating out. You can budget entertainment. It's important to do so. And it's important to budget your travel and vacations as well. And then finally, not necessarily smaller than the once, but, and this is where sometimes I challenge people. We often treat savings after those first two things as what's left over. I'd rather see some people reverse that thinking, or at least make it equal, because it's really important for the future of yourself. So we don't have to work forever, and that we can have a nice quality of life in retirement. Think about it, paying yourself first, your future self. And so it's very important that you're continuing to make a priority your retirement, your long-term savings, midterm, and then your personal savings as well. Two of the biggest expenses that retirees underestimate are healthcare and inflation. Healthcare isn't just Medicare premiums. In retirement, it's prescriptions, deductibles, dental care, vision, hearing. And Fidelity estimates that a typical 65-year-old couple may spend hundreds of thousands of dollars throughout the remainder of their life on healthcare. So this is why forward planning matters. Now, what I usually see is when healthcare expenses generally start to rise, that usually other expenses start to lower just by the nature of aging. But it's important to account for these costs when we're doing budgeting, having an understanding of about how much Medicare supplements are going to cost us in order to get there. And just something to be aware of, that it's not just set it and forget it when it comes to this. Secondly is inflation. Inflation is another big challenge, and it definitely doesn't all hit at once. Now, it might seem like it has because of the last few years, but inflation is the long-term tendency of money to lose purchasing power, resulting in goods and services because of rising cost. And it can have a particularly negative effect on retirees because it chips away retirement income in two ways. It increases the future cost of goods and services, and it potentially erodes the value of the assets that you have set aside to meet those costs. As this slide reveals, even relatively low inflation rate of 2% can have a significant impact on a retiree's purchasing power. For example, $50,000 of living expenses today may be as much as $82,000 in 25 years based on an annual 2% inflation rate. Inflation is one of the few expenses that never sends you a bill. It just quietly makes every other bill more expensive. It's important to know that there are other retirement expenses that could be on your radar, but retirement isn't just about paying bills. Hopefully it's more about enjoying life. Maybe you'll travel more. Need to account for it. Maybe you're going to help your grandchildren. Maybe you're going to move to be closer to those grandchildren. Maybe you're going to look to remodel a home to better suit your future needs, or maybe start a hobby that you've been thinking about. Those aren't bad expenses. They're reasons that many people have worked hard in the first place so they can do those things. The important thing is making room for those goals while still maintaining that financial security. And this is exactly why you're going to start with those budgeting worksheets over the next week. They'll help you begin putting real numbers behind that retirement vision. Well, also we're providing you with a personal financial statement template, also known as a net worth statement. Once your monthly budget is completed, tracking a net worth statement can also help plan for retirement. And it can also help meet goals. Maybe your goal is to reduce your debt. Maybe it's to increase your savings. When you reduce your debt or increase your savings, your net worth goes up. When you borrow more or lose those assets, then your net worth decreases. I think it's also really important to keep it because there's a real beneficial mindset that comes with budgeting and tracking your net worth at the same time. And especially when considering adjustments for those financial goals, it's way more satisfying when you are retiring debts to see the work and sacrifice and progress on a net worth statement. If you don't track your net worth with it, then it's less satisfying. When you're seeing the debt go down or the savings go up, it's significantly more. It is another way mentally to verify and really make you feel good about the sacrifice you're making to kind of reach those goals. Seeing that progress in real time helps reaffirm the action plan you're taking, no matter what actions that you're or goals you're trying to achieve. So, that's all I have for today's content. Join us over the next 8 weeks. There's going to be 2 pieces of content come out a week, and some will be, and this is the dates of which a lot of that stuff will drop. So if you have any questions about any of this stuff, please feel free to reach out. Obviously, we covered quite a bit today. So, and it's probably a subject that no one likes to dive into, and that's the budgeting and really being real with our spending habits. Don't be overwhelmed or anxious. This process is a process, and it will repeat itself several times before you retire in all likelihood. Identifying your expenses, cross-checking that with your income sources, all of those things will be repeated several times over in all reality before you retire. Retirement isn't about finding the perfect answer. It's about making informed decisions one step at a time. This step one in getting started, it really can be overwhelming for people. So give yourself grace. Think about progress over perfection. There's going to be plenty to build on after this, but we're going to save that for another day. We are here for you if you have any hangups or any questions along the way. So take advantage of the resource that you have in front of you and reach out if you need to or want to. Start gathering that information over the next week or weeks to start or begin building your retirement budget. Define what you want your retirement to look like. Now, be realistic, but don't be afraid to dream a little at the same time. That's the fun part. Really, I can't thank you all enough for participating in the program. Thank you for listening today. And we look forward to interacting with you over the next several weeks as we help you build your foundation to chart your own course to retirement. Thanks for listening, everybody. Until next time, we'll see you later.